for Peace in Schools. She has been teaching contemplative practice since 2001, teaching in the Zen tradition and also blending in non-dual approaches. What I'll say about Caverly this morning is that yesterday she had a live interview that I believe you can still see on her Instagram page. The next thing coming up for Caverly is a conversation as part of the Science and Non-Duality Conference. That conference is a week-long event beginning May 17th to the 23rd. Caverly has a interview and conversation that will be aired on May 23rd at 4 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. The title of that talk is How to Know Equanimity Amidst Upheaval. And then also just wanting to remind folks on this call that every Wednesday evening here in Portland, Oregon, Caverly leads a Sangha and a class at 7 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. And it's quite a bit of a smaller group via Zoom. So there's a more intimate sort of Sangha gathering and space to connect. So you're welcome to tune in for that. I'll put a link to her webpage after she comes online, so you have access to that. The way that this platform works and how this morning will go, if this is your first time here, there will be a 30-minute guided meditation followed by a question and answer period. If you would like to ask a question, you're welcome to click on the Ask a Question bar beneath the screen and type your question in that way. If you're willing to come on screen and have a dialogue with Caverly, please indicate that in your question, or you can also write it in the sidebar over here and also indicate if you're willing to come on screen, but if not, you're welcome to write in a question. And then the last thing I'll say is that if you are able at this moment in time, please do see the green donate button beneath my face. Sangha Live is the world's largest gathering free for anyone to join and reap the benefits of the wisdom and teachings that they offer. So they really do rely on donations to support them. And if you're able, it is much appreciated. And without further ado, I will bring on Caverly Morgan.
Sandra, thank you so much. Very grateful for your service. It's early here, folks. It's a lot to ask somebody to help at this time of day. So thank you, Sandra. And thank you, as always, to Sangha Live. I swear, y'all, I say this every day, but I am really glad to be here. I was saying to Cassandra this morning, I feel honey-like this morning, not in terms of the sweetness per se, but just in terms of like the oozing ease of kind of not being fully awake yet. And I'd love to hear what you're present to, how you're doing this morning. What, if you were to describe your experience in this moment, what 1, 2, 3 words would you give it? Yeah, for me, it would be a slow, easy, energetic movement of like honey. And good morning. Thanks again for writing in on the sidebar, just letting us know where you are. It's just lovely to feel the global nature of this Sangha. So yeah, as you look to see, how am I in this moment? How would you describe it? Take a moment to check in. Mimosa, excited to be here. More like peanut butter, slow and sleepy, gliding into the day, Melanie. Tight and soft spots both. Sharon, thank you. Wide awake, it's almost midday for you, John. That's right, thank you. Radiating love and connection worldwide. like moonbeams on water. Beautiful. Mary Jane, thank you. Yes, hello from Paris, Evelyn. Just a bit tired today. Thank you, friends. We're going to move into our meditation now. Thank you, Nikki. Alert. Happy to be here. As we move into this meditation, thank you, Debbie. Rolling your shoulders, maybe twisting the spine, allowing your ribs to open. As you breathe, feeling the ribs move in and out in all directions, not just at the front of the body. And let's begin before I ring the bell by taking 3 of the longest and deepest inhalations and exhalations we've taken yet today. Friends, I brought you a poem from Mary Oliver today. The last time I brought a poem, I offered a reminder that if you have heard this poem before, it's a great opportunity to practice Zen mind, beginner's mind, just allowing the words to come to you freshly. They are fresh, they are new, they're new in this moment, they're new to be received by you, for the context has changed. The moment is not the same from now and whenever you might have heard it before. When death comes like the hungry bear in autumn, when death comes and takes all the bright coins from his purse to buy me and snaps the purse shut, when death comes like the measlepox, when death comes like an iceberg between the shoulder blades, I want to step through the door full of curiosity, wondering, what is it going to be like, that cottage of darkness? And therefore I look upon everything as a brotherhood and a sisterhood. And I look upon time as no more than an idea. And I consider eternity as another possibility. And I think of each life as a flower, as common as a field daisy and as singular. And each name a comfortable music in my mouth, tending as all music does toward silence. And each body a lion of courage and something precious to the earth. When it's over, I want to say all my life, I was a bride married to amazement. I was the bridegroom taking the world into my arms. When it's over, I don't want to wonder if I've made of my life something particular and real. I don't want to find myself sighing and frightened or full of argument. I don't want to end up simply having visited this world. So in this moment, friends, consider sensations arising, thoughts arising, various emotions that might be here now. Consider them as various instruments. Just noticing the music of this moment. What is the quality or tone of the song that's being played? Opening ourselves to this metaphor of all that's arising being like music. Supports the releasing of any habit, any conditioned pattern that's lodged in our practice that suggests that we need to clear the mind. Find peace, as if it exists as a state somewhere when all of this other activity has quieted. Simply notice now how the music of this moment tends towards silence. Notice that this music, again, music being sensations, perceptions, images, thought forms, emotions. Notice how all of those instruments come together, creating music, and that the music arises out of silence. Notice that the music could not exist without silence. When all becomes still, we naturally rest back in silence. When the musicians put their instruments down, we rest back into silence. Silence comes to the forefront rather than remaining behind the experience of music. Pause now quietly to feel how amazing this process is. This dance between form and emptiness, sound and silence, movement and stillness. Be curious about this process as if you were in the front row of an engaging production that you realize you're part of. You are not a neutral observer. Be the bride married to amazement. Be the bridegroom taking the world into your arms. Again, you are not a neutral observer. It's through you that the common daisy is seen. It is through you that the iris is experienced. It's through you that the rose is known. Allow for delight in this mysterious and wondrous process. The process of seeing, receiving, recognizing, the process of knowing experience. Enjoy the mystery. enjoy this innate capacity to know experience. Even to know our own arising sadness or grief or pain. Know the enjoyment. Allow yourself to enjoy the knowing of that experience, the intimacy of knowing that experience. The honor and the privilege of knowing experience, whatever that experience is. Enjoy the mystery, enjoy awareness. Enjoy being. Thank you, friends. Thank you, Cassandra, for posting information about Wednesday evenings if you wish to join there. And thank you for donating if you are able. So the donate button is right below me if you're new to this platform. It's quite easy to support it. And yes, no worries at all. Cassandra, it's true. The conversation with being and doing was live stream. It's not a problem that it's not currently on Instagram. I've had many conversations with Jeff of the Being and Doing Summit, and a few clips from past conversations will be posted, and later we'll post the whole conversation yesterday. It was enjoyable. Thanks, Cassandra, for giving the link to the conversation with Sand. Vera from Sand interviewed me. It was really it was a conversation, but I loved the way it touched on collective liberation, and yeah, I invite you to check that out. So speaking of enjoyment, what did you notice? This enjoyment of knowing our experience, this encouragement to enjoy the mystery, to enjoy being. What are you present to, or what would you like to discuss today about that meditation or practice? You can, as Cassandra mentioned, you can type something in the ask a question box, the sidebar. I would love to see you on screen if you're willing. What are you present to? What do you notice about the knowing of your experience? And what, if anything, tends to get in the way? What tends to veil the knowing of experience? Debbie. The poem was beautiful and reminded me of her poem, The Summer Day. And the line, what will you do with your one wild and precious life made me think of the time I heard that poem for the first time. What will you do with your one precious life? Debbie, I don't know if you're able to come on screen, but I'd love to hear more about your experience if that's possible. Particularly the last line of the poem, but I can't remember the words. I'll pull it up. I don't want to end up simply having visited this world. I don't want to find myself sighing and frightened or full of argument. I don't want to end up simply having visited this world. So I love that that implies this intimacy of experience. Thank you, Debbie. Nikki. During the enjoyment of being, I felt soreness in my knees. A strimmer, thanks for giving us context over here in Portland, Oregon. That's a weed whacker. I heard that outside, thoughts coming in. But in this enjoyment of being, I was able to enjoy the preciousness of it all. Thank you for naming that. That is the heart of what was being pointed to today. That even our discomfort, we can find not enjoyment the way we would say we enjoy an experience that creates a particular kind of pleasure, let's say in the body or the mind, but the enjoyment of the intimacy of knowing our experience. So from that focus, what is there that we can't at least appreciate in terms of the intimacy of that experience? In some cases, enjoyment might really feel too strong, but in many cases, it's not too much of a stretch. Even the enjoyment of deep grief. Can we enjoy the intimacy of that experience that's actually arising out of love, and only so because of our love? Merging with thought and pushing, Martin. Yes, once we identify with thought forms, that can trigger a type of pushing. Thank you. It's true. Evelyn, yes, beautiful poem. Could you give us its name? Yes, I'm almost positive. I copy and pasted the text, but let me just double check that the title is the first line. Yes, it is. Mary Oliver, When Death Comes. Yes, thank you. Oh, yes, and so Elaine, Mary Oliver, is the name of the poet. Mary Oliver with When Death Comes. Sharon, I am in my later years, and I do feel like I have just been visiting the world. I feel profound loss and grief about this. I would choose to be amazed. Yet, why is this so hard? Thank you, Sharon. My question for you, based on what we focused on today, is can you experience, let's start with appreciation, any appreciation for your capacity, your innate capacity to know the experience of only visiting this world? So I can look to my own life and I can see the moments in which I was distracted from the intimacy of experience, that my attention was on what was wrong or what happened yesterday or a concern. Those aren't bad or wrong things, but they're in that identification with the conditioned mind. There's a missing of the intimacy of the moment. Can you now, Sharon, appreciate the intimacy of knowing that experience? You know that experience now. What I'm suggesting, Sharon, is this whole notion of I'm in later years, all is lost. That's a story. We're actually pointing to the timelessness of awareness itself with this conversation. So what is the intimacy? Where, how do I experience that intimacy of being and of knowing experience, which is the experience of being aware? How do I experience that right now? Can I enjoy that right now? The intimacy, enjoying right now the knowing of whatever's here, whatever's arising. Sharon, you may be able to come to Wednesday group again, so tomorrow. And if so, I'd love to hear more about your experience or now. I see there's a question in the question box. Matthew, I found a real connection to Rupert Spira's practice when I started participating in your sessions. I thought, she seems like Rupert Spira in some way. I wonder if you could talk about non-dual meditation and the separate self in the context of today's meditation. Of course, Matthew, thank you. So if Matthew, you have not been on a call or in one of the sessions where I've acknowledged Rupert Spira, this is a wonderful opportunity to do that. My own practice and teaching has been deeply influenced by Rupert Spira. He's a dear friend and mentor, and I've known him for years. And I can say that Peace in Schools wouldn't exist without his love and support. He's been a deep encouragement and a deep encouraging presence for the growth of that vision. So you're hearing something quite specific. You're hearing influence that has formed over the years that I've been friends and practiced with Rupert. So when you ask for me to speak to non-dual meditation and the separate self in the context of today's meditation, I absolutely can. The aspect of today's meditation that I would name as non-dual is the recognition that when we are identified with the conditioned mind, duality comes into existence. So if I am identified with the kind of thought forms that Sharon just pointed to, I'm missing my life, all is lost, I'm in my later years, things are hopeless. Now I'm riffing off what Sharon said. She didn't say all that, but I know Sharon well enough to know that she won't mind me just using this as an example. When I'm identified with all of those thought forms, I experience myself as separate from life. There, in that perception, duality arises, the construct of duality. Good, bad, right, wrong, this, that, me, you. As we take on this practice, if you want to call it that, it's not truly a practice, it's sort of a non-practice, because the meditation was inviting us to return to the intimacy of our own being. So that the intimacy of our own being, it's not a practice to manifest that. If there's any practice to it at all, it's a practice of remembrance. So we're remembering, we're allowing that experience of, in Buddhist terms, experience of true nature to come to the forefront of experience. So the intimacy. And today I was putting a little bit of even a Kashmir Shaivism touch, a tantric touch on the enjoyment aspect, this sort of outward facing path of allowing the enjoyment of experience. So embracing, and that was inspired by, just if it interests anyone, none of this is planned ahead of time, though I did come in last night. I looked for a poem for us for today, but the what arises beyond that isn't planned in any way, and the words came from what Mary Oliver's phrases sparked. So the words following the poem came from what Mary Oliver sparked, and Mary Oliver pointed to this being the bride, being in amazement. It's actually at the core of that, though Mary Oliver likely wouldn't have named anything about her experience of Advaita Vedanta or non-dual meditations. She, an expression of the non-dual nature of reality is embedded in her language. The way I experience that which is truly non-dual is that the heart of non-duality is actually in every major pathway, approach, religion that I have ever come across. There are countless Sufi teachings which point to the non-dual nature of reality. It's woven throughout Buddhism, Dzogchen, Zen. It's woven through all Buddhist forms, Tibetan, that I've had access to and touched. So yes, I invite you to explore that more deeply if it interests you, Matthew. That was a lot of little seeds. Thank you for writing in. Martin, is this why, Caverly, you don't guide us in practice to bring awareness to a specific spot, for example, breath or body? Martin, thank you. I have mentioned, though, no problem if you weren't on one of these calls, because there are likely people on this call that weren't either. So thank you for bringing this question. In these meditations, I have been recently focusing on going straight to an experience of knowing yourself as awareness, the intimacy of that experience. Now, that said, it's interesting. I was talking about this just yesterday in that interview. I'm deeply seeped. I was a monastic for over 8 years. I'm deeply seeped in a progressive path approach. Our only meditation instruction in the Zen monastery was to count the breath and to focus on the breath. So I do want to be clear, and this is another reason I'm glad this has come up, Martin. There is great benefit in that practice. There's a particular steadying the mind that can come. And my desire in serving Sangha Live in this way and showing up and nourishing my own practice by showing up for these calls is to meet the community where the community is. So please know that if folks would appreciate some more object-based meditations, I certainly could offer those. One of the reasons I've been focusing on this direct path approach for these calls is I've gotten a lot of feedback that many are finding it nourishing to go straight to that experience of true nature rather than work on, quote unquote, practices, and I put it in quotes because that's our conditioned tendency to approach some of these practices as something we need to work on or perfect, or the world of duality opens because I either did the practice right or didn't do it right, or I had a good meditation or bad meditation. So these practices that are in the name of moving us toward true nature, supporting us in steadying the mind so that we can have that experience, for example. So just know that what gets offered through this body mind is deeply impacted by years of the progressive path approach, years of the direct path approach, my love of Sufism, my love of poetry. So all of it gets blended together. But Martin, do please request, anyone, please request if you would appreciate some more traditional insight meditation offerings in which we're just focusing on sensation in a particular way or the breath in a particular way. Certainly an option. Spencer, in the meditation today, when Caverly invited us to enjoy knowing and going into everything that arises, I felt a small, hard place inside me that had rejected that invitation, had always rejected it. It had a virtual sign posted, "No trespassing, go away." The hard place was the pain of staying closed. It was in that moment. It was in that moment opened to. Sweet to see how much that the hiding really hurts and that it longs for openness. Yes, even the separate self longs for the return to source, to knowing, to not stay lodged in suffering, I believe. So I do see that we are virtually at our time. So Spencer, you offered to come on screen and I appreciate that. If you can come to Wednesday night or the offering tomorrow, please do, because as you know, and I appreciate that you've attended that before, it's nice that it can be a live exchange for us via Zoom. And I asked that, Spencer, because we don't have time for a full exchange now, but I would like to try to at least read some of these other sidebar comments before we close. Yes, Debbie, you'd like to come on screen at some point, maybe, perhaps another day, but you're going to decline today, no problem. Yevlin, thank you. Andrea, I've been recently aware of an empty, desperate, and insatiable hunger in my belly. It physically manifests as a burning sensation. In recent weeks, I've been gently moving towards it, but can sense an underlying willing it away. Your invitation to enjoy just the meeting really loosens something. Thank you. Andrea, thank you. Yes, this is so the heart of it. Thank you for naming that. Even as Spencer's describing, getting in touch with what's been resisting, what's been blocking, withholding, rejecting, we can appreciate or maybe even enjoy the intimacy of knowing that experience. What is there to that experience other than knowing it? Yeah, thank you. Thank you, John. I've read your comment. Thank you, Spencer. And Sharon, will need to end with me just thanking you as aware of, thank you for commenting in that you do experience awareness as timeless. Thank you. So friends, I will read these other comments that I didn't get to today before I close out or after I close out here, but I do want to honor your time and Cassandra's time. So thank you. Thank you so much for being here today. I really look forward to seeing you here tomorrow if you can join in. Thank you, Julian, for closing us out with enjoying the experience, the practice, enjoying the intimacy of knowing the experience, enjoying the mystery of silence. Thank you.